Okay, here's a tutorial on stacking enchantments in Veil. Obviously the reason for this is the Veil effect does 50 damage when you block. So when you're whirling stuff, you will just die from that. So we're going to use Shadowform's 5 damage reduction and a lot of assassin enchantments to reduce that damage to 0, which means we can then whirl things in Veil. Okay, so here's how that's going to work. First of all, we have Armor of Salvation, which reduces it by 5 damage already, which means we've got 45 damage left to reduce. Each assassin enchantment reduces it a further 5. So we're going to need 9 assassin enchantments. So with 3 of this and 3 of this, that's 6 enchantments. Shadowform is 7. You can have 2 copies of Shroud, which brings it up to 9. And that will mean we take 0 from the Veil effect. We also have Recall on our bar, which means we have 10 assassin enchantments, and that's just to cover the casting time, because with Way of Perfection and Way of the Master, you can't quite fit 3 copies together. When you need to recast it, one of them will drop for a short amount of time, just a few seconds, and so that's why we need Recall for that. So I'm going to show you now how to cast the cycle and the best way to do that. And the order here has really got a couple of goals. One is to make sure that we have no gap where we're taking 5 damage or 10 damage or something. You know, we want to ideally be taking zeros all the time. Second goal is that at some points we're going to be tanking fiends or things that can rupt you. So we want to have as long a time as possible where we're not casting anything, so that we have as long as possible to tank the fiends and kill the fiends. So I'm going to show you the best way to do it. It's to cast the stack, Way of Perfection, then Shadowform, then your other stack, like Way of the Master, and then Shroud at the end. So it goes like this. Yeah, and that there is your cycle up. As I said, you need to actually have 3 copies of this and this up, so we need to wait for Shadowform to be recharged and actually have cast them 3 times before we're covered for 0 damage. I'm just going to show you, like, quickly holding some souls here. You'll see I'm taking damage from the attacks. So here I've just got the second cycle, so you'll see I'm still taking 15. So every time Shadowform is recharged, it's going to be those 3. And Shroud, you're going to cast it basically on recharge. It'll be when Shadowform reaches this line. So Shroud is going to alternate. It's either going to be directly after Way of the Master here, or it's going to be when your Shadowform reaches this point. Now remember I said about Recall, I don't have Recall up at the moment, so you're going to see here I'm taking 5 damage there. It's just because of the casting times. The rest of the time I will take 0, so it's for that gap of like when Shadowform's about here till when it's recharged where you take 5 damage. And that's really why you need Recall. I'm just going to put Recall up now. I'm now fully protected in Veil. I can just tank stuff here, blocking, and I won't take any damage. Okay, another thing to note here, each time I'm casting Shadowform, you don't want to cast Way of Perfection like immediately. Hang on. You don't want to cast Way of Perfection immediately. That's because if you do that, it's going to become desynchronized from your Shadowform. I actually wait a little bit until Shadowform's just recharged. Sometimes I'm very slightly late and I take a couple of -5s, but generally that's okay. And the reason for that is just that if you cast Way of Perfection on recharge instantly, then it's going to become desynchronized from your Shadowform. So I'll show you that here if I'm just cast it instantly. You're going to see on the next cycle it's going to be recharged earlier, and the one after that even earlier and earlier, and we don't want that because, like I said before, we want to be able to tank fiends for as long as possible. In a bit more detail here, sometimes you're going to be tanking stuff that will damage you, like hungers, and you want to make sure that you've got as much HP as possible. So when it's that situation, I would advise actually casting this one on recharge, just to make sure you don't take any -5 damages, you know, just when you have the hungers. And just know that in your next Shadow Form cycle, this is going to be a little bit early. Okay, I'm going to imagine a situation here where you've got some fiends on you right now and you haven't managed to kill them, but your Shroud is coming up. You can just wait on that. Kill the fiends, so long as you can cast Shroud before Shadow Form, like around now. So you see I take damage there, I have to recast, then it's okay. You can survive that. So, you know, you can be late on your Shroud, but now it's like not quite in the right cycle. It's not in the perfect cycle. You know, it's still fine like this. It just means I'm going to be recasting Shadow Form. Then there's going to be a gap where I don't need to cast anything, and then I'm going to have to cast Shroud like here somewhere. And that's not ideal when we're doing Fiends, and we want to have a long time where we don't have to cast anything. So here, I'm going to purposefully just cast my Shroud late, just to simulate what it will be like. So I'm going to cast it just before Shadow Form, around when I take a -5 damage. To cast it there. So this is a typical situation where you had Fiends and you weren't able to kill them in time. You had to recast your Shroud late. So the way I'm going to show you is to cast Shroud late again, which puts it back in the cycle. So it's instantly going to get back in the right cycle, but on the next Shadow Form cast you're going to take some damage. So you have to know that that's okay. So I'm going to show you here. You know, with a late cycle, normally I'd be recasting it here. Instead, I'm just going to wait until my Shadow Form reaches here, and recast it now. So my Shroud is now back in cycle. So far, everything's fine. I still took 0 damage. But on the next Shadow Form, after this one, you know, this one is normal. On my next Shadow Form cycle, I'm going to be taking -5 damage for a few seconds, like when the Shadow Form is kind of here, until it's recharged. So, you know, if whatever situation you're in, you know that that's going to be okay at that point in time, you know, that's good. Then you can use this way to reset it. So you'll see I'll take -5s here. And it's just for that few seconds. Now that I recast everything, now I'm fully back in the correct cycle and everything is fine. Some ways to make it more okay, if you need to take some -5 damage at some point, the easiest way is running. So, you know, if you're able to run around in a straight line, then your souls, they're not gonna hit you. So you see here, you know, they're hitting me like once a second or something roughly. If I'm running like this, they don't actually hit me at all, or like only the occasional one will hit. So if you can be running like that during the few seconds you're taking -5 damage, then, you know, that's totally fine. You won't take any damage.